Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. Our campaign is Massive Nyarlathotep. It was written by Larry DiTilio, Lynn Willis, Mike Mason, Lynn Hardy, Paul Fricker, and Scott Dorward, and it's available from Chaosium. Our game master is Morgan Llewellyn, and this is episode 15. Our recap will be given by Brian Daly as his character, Frederick Chapman. So without any further delay, let's continue our journey into the darkness. Brian?
Dear George, of all the people I know, you are certainly the most qualified individual for what I am charging you with. Not only does your service record show your strength of character, but your close relationship with your brother, my friend and mentor, and your brother's family show that you have a vested interest in protecting our way of life. I'm not sure how long I will be. Oh, that's garbage. Let's not get everyone worked up all over nothing. Dear George, it is wonderful to write you, and everything is going swimmingly in jolly old England. Theo and Hauser are recovering nicely, and we have postponed the meeting with the Penhew boys. We killed a snake person. It was hiding in an old lady, poor thing. The old fox bought all the paintings, and we found a fascinating blue liquid. No one knows what it's made of. But old Foxy Fox and I tried some, and it gave us visions. Past, present, future, fact, fiction, all were shown to us. Unfortunately, it seems Fox took a little ill of it and walked into the basement in his sleep. Maybe indigestion or something. I have it under the highest authority that the stars will fall and destroy all that we know. With this in mind, tell everyone you know to start wearing helmets, or at least thick hats when outside. All the best, my good hunting buddy, Frederick Chapman.
Cool.
Yeah, so after a wild night of visions, it is now the morning of Friday the 6th. Sorry, you have a appointment to meet with Mr. Gavgan with the Penhew Foundation later this afternoon. I see Frederick has.
I'm feeling much better. What a delightful night of sleep. How is everyone this morning?
What are you drinking?
Nothing.
Let's hope you're not drinking nothing.
Yeah,
If that's from the back of the toilet. I'm sorry, it's the 6th of March.
It's a Friday.
1925.
And our meeting's at 1 o'clock with me.
Yes.
1 o'clock. Now, did we want to talk to the? What time is it now? Is it just morning?
It's morning. We'll just.
Okay. Did we want to go by Scotland Yard and see if we can talk to the guy who's been doing the? What are we going to tell him if we do that? That we're just amateur sleuths looking for an interesting story?
Oh, this
didn't Elias contact him?
Inspector Barrington?
They were in touch, so we could go and say, we're investigating the death of our friend Jackson.
Inspector
and we want to know what he discussed.
Tying up loose ends.
Well, we could. I mean, I feel like we have enough to say that his death and the other deaths that occurred in Harlem sound in some way similar to his Egyptian murders.
That's a good lead.
Yeah.
That would at least get us
discuss the cases.
We expect possibly a connection between cults.
Mm. And I mean, it won't be if he's already spoken to Jackson, and we say, look, Jackson was looking into this, and he turned up dead. And now you've got cultish murders going down. There could be a connection there. He might,
Well, it's
How-
been a few years since I was last in England, but I seem to remember that the newspapers used to be obsessed with foreign cults and things. So maybe that'll carry some weight.
Old Blighty. Yes.
Gacy, why don't you call over the Gracie? Why don't you call over there and see if we
To
can
the
get
Scotland Yard?
yeah, see if we can, if he's available to chit chat for 20 minutes with us.
Right here, not a problem. And I'll
It
go
might
to
be in
the
case.
phone and dial the number for the Scotland Yard, which I will know.
Whitehall 1212.
Whitehall 1212.
This is Scotland Yard.
Yes. Hello. I was wondering if I could speak to Brannigan.
Brannigan? I'm sorry, sir. I don't know any.
One moment, and I'll name
Barrington.
Barrington. The name is Barrington.
Inspector Barrington.
That is the one. Yes. Yes. Yes.
What is your what do you have to speak with him about?
A friend of mine met with him a few months back and discussed some. Well, I'm calling to find out what exactly they discussed, and I was wondering if me and some of my associates could come and have a meeting with him.
Let me check with him. One moment.
Oh, of course, thank you very much.
Wait for a minute or so.
Yeah.
And then phone gets picked up. This is Inspector Barrington.
Yes, Inspector Barrington. My name is Theodore Gracie. I'm an associate of Jackson Elias. Does that name mean anything to you?
Jack, vaguely.
African-American fellow. He's a writer. Possibly talk to you about some cults.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yes. Well, we had heard that he'd contacted you and spoken to you some time ago, and we were wondering if we could come in and have a meeting with you to discuss Jackson and your conversation. To fill you in, the short story basically is that Jackson got himself mixed up in some form of cult and was murdered in New York. And my associates and I inspected we investigated the murder and found there were quite a few murders around this cult. And we've heard that you have a similar problem on your hands at the moment. So we thought maybe there could be some sort of connection.
Well, if you want, you can come. Yeah, come to the station. We can talk.
Excellent. Thank you so much. There'll be 5 of us, I believe.
5? That's just fine. As long as you come in the next hour.
Yes, we'll be right over. Right. See you soon. And yes, he said if we go in the next hour, he can meet with us. He took him a while, but he seemed to remember Jackson. So I guess we'll see what he has for us.
All right, let's get over there.
Second.
Right, so you make your way over to New Scotland Yard. And you are, take a time, you're led in and you are led to an office, the office of Inspector Barrington. He's an older man, got thin hair, pretty lanky, and he just, please have a seat.
Thank you for seeing us. Yes.
Inspector Theodore Gracie, we spoke on the phone. and I'll put my hand up to shake.
Yes. Now, please, I hope you understand. I'm quite busy. I do not have a lot of time.
Of course, of course. As I said on the phone, we would quite like to find out exactly what you and Jackson discussed.
Look, Jackson, he spoke to me briefly. He wanted to. He's in regard to the Egyptian murders, as they've been called locally here. He was telling me that some organization called the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh was behind the killings.
I see.
Now, may I ask a question, please? We're calling them the Egyptian murders. Why is that?
Well, they were the murders of Egyptian nationals
So it was just Egyptian nationals that were being murdered.
in the beginning.
I see. Back in the United States, in New York, there was an ethnic neighborhood, mostly African Americans, and this cult seemed to be centered there. They were calling themselves the Cult of the Bloody Tongue, and they were murdering people in that neighborhood. And then they sort of branched out in the same way you're describing. But we found that there were possible connections between between London and a place in Kenya and a place in Egypt. And that's why your Egyptian murder seemed to trigger something for us. We're actually ultimately on our way to Africa and Egypt.
And this is investigating these connections of yours.
Yes.
Yes.
They murdered our friend, Mr. Elias.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. And is that why you have come to London then?
Well, yeah, it's kind of all the way through, isn't it?
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I contacted a local group here, the Eminent Authorities on Egyptology, a group called the Penhew Foundation, and they have assured me that no such brotherhood exists.
I see.
Well, we had an expert in New York that said the same thing about the Bloody Tongue, and they are more than real. They killed Jackson and my friend Christopher, so they are. Forgive us if we don't take one person's word for it.
We actually have a meeting with the Penhew Foundation later today. They'll probably tell us exactly what you said. I was just wondering if you're able to tell us any similarities in the murders.
Well, since I'm not familiar with your New York murders.
Oh, the New York murders, they carved a symbol into the forehead of all of their victims. Did they do anything to these people?
No, look, every one of these victims have been the same. They were savagely beaten and then were stabbed through the heart.
Through the heart, specifically, all right. Knife, spear, screwdriver through the heart?
Most resembles a nail.
A nail. Interesting.
You mentioned the first victims were Egyptian, but then they went to other victims. Was there any correlation there, or any similarities between the new types of victims?
17 out of the 19 people killed over the last 3 years have been Egyptian.
Were
the other two seem to be outliers.
But were the other two perhaps investigating and ran into information, like our friend Jackson?
Make a psychology.
No.
No.
Anybody pass psychology?
I will burn 5 luck to make that a pass.
Okay.
Because that
When
was a really good roll.
when Octavius was mentioning other people who've maybe gotten too close to it, his Barrington's face definitely darkened a little bit, like it's causing him to think about something.
Darkened sinisterly, or
No, like
Shame.
Like
Well,
maybe he
he-
knew the person.
yeah,
Stuff like
that's
that.
Right.
like he's definitely
We want to be able to work with you, Scotland Yard. Your reputation is world renowned. We want very much, if we begin to discover things, we want to be able to come to you for assistance if need be.
I'm going to put this bluntly. I don't need a couple of cowboy Yanks running around causing havoc and ruining this investigation.
Well, I'm a Yank, but he's not a Yank. He's not a Yank. I don't think he's a Yank either. It's hard to tell what race he is.
So this is an ongoing investigation. This has not been closed.
Oh yes, I am the chief investigator of this.
Yeah, they don't close murder cases like this anyway.
I mean, these are still happening.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'm sorry, when was the last one that occurred?
The last one that occurred was probably 2 months ago.
was there any regularity to them? They always occur on the dark of the moon or something like that?
I beg your pardon.
You know, sometimes these ritual killings, they happen at the full moon or in the dark of the moon or
the one
On-
specifically in
No.
New York happened on a lunar cycle.
right.
Or maybe a particular time of day?
Maybe they're not particularly good cultists. They're evangelical cultists.
Yes.
Or they could have other similarities. Maybe they're facing a particular direction. Or
You said that.
I'm glad that you
17
believe
of
that
the-
I've not been doing my job. I assure you that the manner of death, and perhaps they are Egyptian nationals, is the only connection between them.
Right.
Well, on that, you said that 17 of them were Egyptian nationals, and that the other two weren't. What was the connection of the other two?
Unknown. We are still looking into it.
We
So
understand.
the only way you know they're part of them is that they were killed in the same.
Killed in the same manner of death.
Right.
We didn't mean to imply in any way that you're not doing your job. I'm sure
Of
you
course
are. We're just trying to find out more information so that we can do our job as well.
And what is your job exactly?
Our job is investigating this murder. There's nothing that says that we can't. I mean, Sherlock Holmes was not a member of the police force.
And Sherlock Holmes wasn't real.
No, but he's not the only person that's ever been like that.
one of our concerns is that this is very similar to what has happened in New York, and Jackson Elias was inevitably, eventually murdered by them in New York,
And Christopher.
and Christopher.
Who was this Christopher?
Another member of our group who was also murdered because he got too close.
Started uncovering things that, yeah, exactly. Got a little
So you
too
can
close.
see that if we are still on the case after two of our friends have been murdered, we're serious.
And it also means that if two of our friends have been murdered, that we're on the right track because they're starting to sweat.
Well, I'll have you know, whoever is behind it, I am not the first inspector on this case. Do you understand? Do you
Oh,
understand
sure.
that?
You said it's been going on for years, yeah.
Look, my predecessor, Gregory Munden,
Yeah.
up and vanished a year ago. Not a trace of him. This was his sole case.
Mm.
And so when I say that I don't want your actions getting in the way in this, I mean it.
We promise
Go
to
ahead and
stay out of
poke
your
around if
way.
you want. But I tell you, there will be hell to pay if you jeopardize this. Do I make myself clear?
Absolutely.
If
We
find
would never
anything,
do
we will
anything
let
to
you know.
jeopardize this.
Mm.
And just so that we are clear, despite we don't intend any kind of hostility in this case. We want only cooperation, and that's our cooperation. If we find out things, we would be very willing to tell you about them, if you're willing to hear us. Surely you want more information.
Yes, but things must be done in a proper way.
Well,
And if you just so happen to be caught and brought in by my boys for breaking the law, I will not hesitate.
I understand.
We have no
How you
intention
deport.
of breaking the law. We have no
I'm
intention
just
of breaking
going to remind you that because you are an upright and very admirable member of the police force, and that you are very much willing to do things by the book. Well, the bad guys know the book, and they know how to get around the book. That's why we're here. We won't break any laws, but we don't have to buy the book. We don't have a book.
Well, if you excuse me, I have things to do.
Of course.
Thank you for
We're-
your time.
Yes, thank you very much. You don't sound like a Scotsman.
No, I don't do accents.
Yes, Hauser, we do have 4 books.
How's
You don't tell the police everything.
No, this is as we're leaving the office.
Okay. All right, so now we just got some time to kill before.
Well,
We're going to go see where they chopped off the people's heads.
The first thing I wanted to point out, just because we're going to have a meeting with the man now, the police have contacted this Penhu to ask about the cult of the Black Pharaoh, the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh, and he's claimed that there's no such thing. He could be saying that if he's trying to cover up the murders, if he's somewhat involved, because we already know he's involved with the Carlisle expedition.
You're talking about the
idea.
Foundation?
Mhm.
Yes, we already know they're involved with the Carlisle expedition. These
Well, they
murders are
were.
going on. They've been contacted. I mean, this is not the first time we've heard the name, the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh.
Yeah.
So it's not something that's been made up by. And as I said, the cult expert we spoke to back in New York, or that you spoke to back in New York, claimed there was no such thing as the bloody tongue.
And yet,
Yeah. Well, I think that Jackson did a lot of research, so he would
No, of
know.
course he did.
yeah,
Um,
I trust him.
So I'm saying is we don't show our hand at Penhu, because I would be concerned that if they are involved, they're obviously going to just,
After all, we don't know that guy in there is involved.
he seemed pretty passionate about
He did.
about trying to find out what
ridiculously.
happened to his partner.
Yeah, was it Gregory Vanden, was it? Inspector Gregory Vanden?
Yes. I wonder if because it didn't sound like Gregory was counted among the victims because he wasn't found.
Yeah, he's
He
just disappeared a year ago.
And Frederick,
I
I'm
wonder-
gonna carry on your past psych roll.
Yeah.
Now that you're reflecting on the conversation, there was a lot more that he was not telling you.
Mm.
Yeah,
Your
but that's
guess is
not-
because he didn't think that there was. Like, he was thinking about things, but he just didn't feel like sharing them with you.
I think the police also tend to hold back information
Of course.
because they want to be able to get rid of crackpots.
Mm.
They come in and say, "Oh, I found such and such," and they're like, "Yeah, that's not actually part of the whole serial killing thing. Get out of the office.
Yeah. I wonder if he was closer, if he was closer
Related?
related to any of the actual victims.
Well, that's why I want
The
to
found
find out.
victims.
I want
Wouldn't-
to find out who these extra two killed were, and if they were people like Jackson, who were possibly, if they were reporters or something like that, who were getting too close to the case.
Wouldn't that have removed him from the case? I mean, did they let you work on cases that you're related to in like you've got a relative or a friend? Don't they usually take you off that case and give it to somebody else? Because you tend to be not objective.
Maybe one of the victims was a contact of his.
Maybe.
An informant, yes.
Maybe
it's
an
a partner.
under-the-table informant. Yes.
Maybe.
How's that?
He was
perhaps
hiding a
if we,
lot.
if we go to the local library or newspaper office or something and try and see if we can find the names of the victims.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, you should probably.
Any records. Sure, it's public knowledge now.
They might not be all at once, though. They might be.
Well, no, but over the last 3 years, we can.
Yeah, you'll probably find that at the library. You'll find all those newspapers. We don't know how often they have. That might take a few hours.
How long do we have before our meeting?
Yeah,
That's at 1 o'clock.
That kind of research is probably going to take you a few days.
Yeah, days.
Because you're going to have to go through all those newspapers and look for all of the things. It's doable, but probably not before lunch.
What if Morris brought up an interesting point earlier this morning? The newspapers are always fascinated with the morbid. What if we go and visit a more reputable newspaper, one that we don't have to wash our hands immediately upon exiting?
Yeah, they'd probably, if they ran stuff, they'd know it. Talk to the editor.
Just keep in mind, though, that
they might have more details.
Morris, what's the most reputable newspaper office in London?
Well, I imagine that would be the Times.
The London Times?
No, the Times.
Oh, it's just the Times.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, even though the scoop was questionable, it did have the story of the artist, and that certainly was no hoopla. There was something to it. As
I don't
Theo's
doubt
folder in my back.
That there are things here, but just maybe a little bit more diligence in reporting.
You could almost argue the opposite as well, Frederick. That a bigger paper may, with corporations, people paying them, they can hide stories more. A paper that's got less sort of, they have less people trying to, how do I say this? Trying to dull down their stories and put screens up to cover the truth.
Really? Fake the news?
Now, see, there's a problem with that in a regular big newspaper, and that's that people will sue a regular big newspaper if they get the facts wrong. So I think that they're probably pretty damn meticulous on there, and that's why you don't find stuff like the artists in their newspapers, because they don't have any way to verify the truth of it, and it's just so it's. Nope, sorry, we ain't gonna print that. So what are we going to talk to Penhew about? We're going to go into the Foundation. We're going to meet this Gavigan. We're going to meet whatever. I'm not sure if he's the head of the company at this point.
But find out.
What if we ask about the Carlisle expedition?
Yeah, Audrey. Wasn't it Audrey or Aubrey or something like that?
Aubrey Penhew. Yeah, but look, if we walk in there and talk about the Carlisle expedition, and there is something funny, and they know about it, we're fucking dead. We're giving everything away in the first few seconds.
Maybe not. I think we're going to have to sacrifice some information.
Well, why don't we just talk about Aubrey?
Yeah.
Well,
we just need to decide what information we need to dangle as bait.
I think asking about the connection to the expedition is not that much because
How about-
everyone knows about it.
How about this? How about me and Fox? We act as if we are interested in funding to continue the expedition, to pick up where they left off. And we say, listen, we want to know the details. We want to know what happened, what they found, all that sort of stuff, so that we, as benefactors...
It wasn't an officially sanctioned expedition of any particular sort, so there's nothing for us to continue.
Mm-hmm. If we say that we're trying to look for the people or find actual remains to return.
Oh, they found remains.
What if we just say that
they believe the remains were eaten by animals?
How about just that we're researching the Carlisle expedition and we are writing a book on it? I think that was what we were originally saying. Well, we're part of Prospero Publishing back in the United States. And,
yes, but if they work out that Elias was connected to Prospero, it won't take long to connect those dots.
Well, that's true.
And one way or the other, he was murdered. So if there's any connection between groups.
Exactly.
I think that somewhere along the line, we're going to be running into some people who are connected to what happened. Yeah. And we got to be careful who we talk to. But something just struck me as odd. Why on earth would the inspector go to the Penhew Foundation to find out if a cult existed or not?
He said that they were some of the best experts on Egyptology, didn't he? So since they are experts of that, and these are the Egyptian murders, that there might have been a connection he must follow.
What if we don't say that we're benefacting to pick up their dig, but what if we say we're planning our own expedition to Egypt, and we say, oh, we understand there was a famous one that the Penhew Foundation that Aubrey Penhew was on that was connected to Egypt. So we say we're planning an expedition.
Make an enroll, everybody.
I like that, CO. Enroll.
What is this?
It's an idea roll.
Svansig.
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Okay.
Hard pass.
As you're thinking about this, you're trying to think of how you're going to approach this conversation, and it strikes you that you guys know next to nothing about the Penhew Foundation.
Right.
You have not done any digging into what they are and exactly what they do.
Maybe we should go to
that they're connected, that they were Aubrey's foundation.
We got a couple of hours. We could go to the British Museum and see if we could find out information.
Yeah, that's a good call.
On the Penhew Foundation before we go into the Penhew Foundation.
Yeah.
Won't hear any arguments from me.
I hear the British Museum's beautiful. We all look at Morris. Morris, you've been taking any of the blue water?
It's all right.
But
it's a museum.
Would the British Museum have something on a foundation?
It's a library. It's got a library.
Oh, yeah, it's a library. It's a library.
Hauser loves a good library.
I do.
So going to the British Museum, as where Morris says they keep all their loot. Everybody can make a library use check.
All right. Well, we got to make sure. It's kind of hard to get in because of all that damage done to the front end of the library.
No.
Well, I'm sorry. What was this for?
Library use.
And
hard pass.
I'm paying for that psychology pass. Good grief.
Nope.
Not a critical. My eyes don't fall out, but.
So all the rest of us walk into the library and we go.
I think these things are called books. I'm not sure what.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, I just can't read this in an English accent. It's not working.
Oh, I needed 1 point of luck to make it a pass.
Okay. So between you and Theodore, you learn a couple of things.
Oh, good.
The Penhew Foundation was established in 1890 by Sir Aubrey Penhew, who was noted as a renowned Egyptologist. As the director of the foundation, he oversaw quite a number of, and funded a number of expeditions to Egypt. He is mentioned as accompanying the Carlisle expedition in 1919, where he was murdered in Kenya. The current, his successor as director of the foundation is Edward Gavigan. They issue grants to scholars undertaking a study of Egyptian history and antiquities. It negotiates permits with the Egyptian government, assists with planning, travel itineraries, and hiring of local labor for expeditions. So they do a lot of organizational work. Their building in London serves to house artifacts that they recover from their expeditions. And they have a repository of information concerning Egyptian history and their expeditions to Egypt and other parts of Northern Africa. They have done roughly 20 digs in Egypt. 10 of these happened after Penhew's death. There is currently an expedition already underway near Cairo, led by Dr. Henry Clive, excavating on the Giza Plateau.
Well, that sounds like we could say that we're simply researching to write a book or something on Aubrey Penhew. And
I feel like that's strange that there's 5 of us all writing a book. And as I said, I don't think we should mention Prospero because of the obvious connection then to Jackson. Whereas if we say we're planning our own expedition and we wanted to, just inquire about all the permits.
Then we just have to be careful then about what we say. We can't say that we're doing something or coming from somewhere that can be traced, because if they can just make a phone call and they'll say, yeah, there's no people like us there, there's nobody like that involved, then they'll know that we're fakes. We can't say that we're funding an expedition. They'll want to know all the details, so we don't have any details.
Well, that's what we say to them. We say we don't have any of our details yet, but we are looking at funding an expedition to Egypt.
Well, if you chaps are thinking about going on one of those Penhew foundations, you might want to be a bit careful.
Who said that?
You hear this man from another table has kind of piped up.
Oh,
you've been to Egypt?
Oh no, not myself, but I hear people die on those Penhew expeditions.
People die on a lot of things, but it's rough traveling. But what do you know? Tell us, stranger.
Well, quite recently, their sponsored digs in Egypt, people have been dying.
On this recent one?
There have been a couple of suicides and even murders by the Egyptian locals.
Interesting. Where are you hearing this from?
Oh, well, you don't seem like academic types to me, but in my circles, we tend to discuss these things.
Theodore
and what
Gracie.
circles?
And you might be?
Oh, sorry. My name is Bernard Smith.
And what do you do here at the museum?
Oh, well, I'm just here doing some research.
Oh.
Yes, I'm an archaeologist.
You're an archaeologist. But you're not associated with the Penhew Foundation, and you're someone else.
They do have a lovely library, though.
What's your area of expertise?
Oh, well.
Your geographical region of expertise.
Northern Africa.
Oh.
Yeah, so the expeditions that occur there are of high interest.
Explains why. To
me and my friends.
And you're
My
saying
friends,
that some of them are plagued with horrible accidents or suicide or even murder.
Yes, quite tragic.
What
And
does this have
this
to do
is
with the local population? I
Well,
understand that.
there's been some suspicion of murders by the locals. Just poor luck, in my opinion.
I thought that the Egyptians rather liked the British.
Hmm.
Well, when you start digging around in the bones of other people,
Well,
there's some
I mean,
offense
perhaps
there.
the Foundation just needs to strive to find more reputable workmen. Who knows?
Possibly.
this is all recent, or this has been going on for a while? The murders and deaths.
Oh, this is, I mean, over the last several years.
Oh, over years. Okay.
And it's always connected to the Penhew Foundation.
What are always connected? Murders in Egypt? No.
No, but
these
the ones,
I'm
the
talking about
expeditions.
Penhew Foundation digs.
So
Yes.
you're saying that they're not their security is not as good as it should be. Then
I'm just saying, if you are considering with them, it's just something to keep in mind. I'm not trying to
And
dissuade
what-
you. They are, people continue to do work with them, and they have fantastic results. So I can see why they would be your choice. I've just thought you would like to know.
And what would be your recommendation otherwise?
Well, if you do not have the resources to do it yourself, there are no other options here.
Hmm.
Perhaps going to try to get university backing or museum backing are probably your only other options.
A question for you. You said you're an archaeologist. Do you know of any pyramids in northern Africa
No.
that are out of shape? That aren't like the shape isn't correct. They've
The
maybe
shape is in a
damaged-
pyramid?
gentlemen,
Well, it clearly is a pyramid, but it's deformed.
we're drawing some attention. We're talking a little too loud here in the library. Why don't we? I'm sorry. What was your name again, Mr.
Bernard.
Bernard? Would you like to join us for lunch?
Oh, sure.
Why don't we go outside and cross the street somewhere and find a cafe and we can talk there? That librarian over there is giving me the evil eye.
Yes, Nancy will do that.
Sorry.
Sorry, Nance.
Okay, so I guess we're going to a cafe
Yeah,
across the street.
so
So we go across the street.
you go across the street to a cafe. Anyway,
So
sorry.
tell us more. Tell us more. Tell us how you feel
How I feel
about. Well, you say about the Penhew Foundation. We're trying to research some of the background of the Penhews, Aubrey Penhew, and those that came after him. We're traveling to Egypt eventually, but not immediately. It was just whatever stories you can tell us, whatever reasons you have, or whatever much more information you can tell us on what you think is wrong with the Penhew Foundation. Do tell.
Well, they are quite knowledgeable group of individuals. I have a membership there to access their academic resources. Their librarians are most knowledgeable. Their resources are quite well. They're the specialized Egyptian knowledge is phenomenal. Their personal collection of antiquities is great. It's on public display. It's great They provide just a wealth of knowledge about Egypt and its culture and its history.
And this has been mainly your research, bailiwick.
Yes, and I go to their building quite regularly, in fact.
Have you ever heard of a religious movement called what the hell is it called, guys? The Egyptian thing.
Oh, some sort of a colored pharaoh,
Something
some
about
monochromatic pharaoh.
Dark pharaoh or a black pharaoh or something.
Oh,
Don't just bark out your answer at us.
Are those hounds
the
appearing
dogs
from the
just
corners of the
love
room?
all this Egyptology talk. They just get so excited.
I've always thought it's one of the downsides of British museums that they contain so many dogs. But we
And
are
this
a
cafe,
nation
too.
of dog lovers.
It's a quaint custom.
But they're highly literate dogs. They're red setters.
It's like Istanbul
they
with
love
cats.
to read.
Dogs. They're everywhere.
Is it Istanbul or Constantinople?
Is it Constantinople with all the cats? I don't know.
It's nobody's business but the Turks.
You were going to tell us something.
Yes. Oh. I think you're referring to the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh. No.
Oh yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah.
What about them?
Well, what can you tell us? We heard that was. I mean,
they were a small religious sect that was well eradicated, forced out of Egypt.
When did
So
this
they
happen?
exist then?
Well, not anymore.
No, but what I'm saying is they did. So knowing of their existence would be something that the Penhew Foundation would know of.
Well, yes.
Hmm.
But I mean, you talk about that yes, they existed.
That's what I know. I'm saying Penhew, as experts of Egyptology, they would have been aware that the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh was a thing that existed at some point in time in Egypt.
Yeah, that's what he said.
So if someone asked them, was this a thing? They would say, yes, it was many
They
years
would
ago.
say it existed thousands of years ago. Yes, I'm
Interesting.
sure.
Interesting.
And so they were cast out of Egypt thousands of years ago.
Yes.
What
I give a
do you know
look
what
at,
dynasty
Hauser.
that occurred during, or?
Nope. It escapes me.
I was going to say, here's the point where you better have read that entire.
Yep. It's just like, oh,
I actually think we were given when we last
Maybe.
heard about it, we were given some information.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Do you have any idea where the follow?
the third dynasty.
The third dynasty. Wow, way back then. I think they had just invented the term
they were, yes, they were in power in the third dynasty, but they were kicked out around that time.
That's fascinating. And you're a scholar
Yes, I am a scholar
of northern Africa. Do you have any idea where these people would have gone?
Oh, probably south.
So that would take them into Ethiopia and Eritrea and
Like Kenya, perhaps.
Kenya eventually. Yeah. Well,
So what are you studying with your trip to Egypt?
oddly enough, we're studying an interesting series of religious organizations that have occurred over the past, I guess, few hundred years. We'd read in one of your local.
I was just going to say a few hundred years, so you should just forget the Brotherhood right out. They don't exist anymore.
Well, we read a local newspaper. What was it called? The poop, the scoop, the something like that.
Z-Scoop.
Mentioned a series of murders. The police, at least the Scotland Yard, thinks that it has something to do with Egyptians. At least Egyptians were most of the murders, and they refer to it as the Egyptian killings.
Yes, the Egyptian murders.
Yeah, you're familiar with them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they've been occurring for several years now.
Do you
So,
recall,
I mean,
of any of the names of the victims at all?
No, I don't. I don't commit those things to memory.
Of course.
well, I mean, it's just sort of it's the kind of interesting stuff that we're interested in, and we didn't expect to meet you in the library, so just hearing your stories and what you got to say. What do you think? What's your theory about all this? What's going on?
Oh, about the Egyptian murders?
Yeah. Just some random crazy person?
Oh, or a group.
Do you have a lot of weird cults here in London?
No. Not any that I am aware of or have been invited to.
Have you ever heard of the cult of the bloody tongue?
No.
That's a Kenya-based cult. At least we think.
Strong connections.
Well, that is a little outside of my own area of study.
What time is it now? Just out of interest.
Probably noon at this point.
Yeah. Well, it's very nice talking to you. We're going to have to go. We have a meeting, but well, it's nice talking to you.
No, yes, it was nice meeting you as well. Good luck with
Are you
your
based at one of the
studies.
universities?
By myself, no. I'm currently independent at the moment.
I see.
Would you have a card that we could contact you if we had any questions?
I don't have a card, but he'll write down his information.
Excellent. Much obliged.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to meet a fellow archaeologist.
As we're leaving, I'll sort of give Fox a look and say, well, there we have it. He said himself, if the Penhew Foundation were asked if the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh existed, they would have said yes. So we know that they lied to the police. We need to tread extremely carefully going into this meeting, gentlemen.
Well, yeah, I've said that all
Extremely
along.
carefully.
There's a possibility that what was actually exchanged was, do they exist today? And their answer was no. But yeah, that seemed really fishy. Because the cop didn't say that to us.
It sounds like, bear with me, and I'm keeping my voice low, obviously, as we're, that the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh defected to Kenya, changed their name to the Cult of the Bloody Tongue, and that they're actually one and the same cult. Or a group from the Black Pharaoh disbanded and made the Bloody Tongue.
Well, I mean, that certainly feels right. Of course, you've also got to understand that when a religion moves from one country to the other, it changes completely. I mean, we're talking, of course, over thousands of years. It becomes converted, for all we know. I mean, perverted. One religion might be actually quite good, and then it turns into a bizarre.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
How did the name of the organization in question get brought up in conversation with our friend the detective?
The Penhew Foundation?
Foundation?
No, the cult. Did we bring that up?
Jackson
Or
Elias
did
brought
he
it
bring
up.
that up?
Jackson Elias brought it up.
Okay.
And he and
All
the
right.
policeman mentioned it. I got to admit, though, that when we started this, my impression was that Penhew the archaeologist, he was just sort of, it's like Carlisle came here on his way to Egypt and just picked up Penhew because he was the most prominent archaeologist of the time, and
Yes.
Carlisle had money, so
That
he
could be
saved
how it started, Fox. But also, look at the possibility of this woman that coerced Carlisle in the first place, also convinced the doctor. What if everybody that was on that expedition got somehow
convinced by the witchy woman?
That's what I'm exactly.
Right,
Now
but then why would the Penhew Foundation have anything? Their guy was taken away and he disappeared.
But this whole thing started that Jackson believed that they're not dead. So if he is alive,
that's right,
and he's still controlling his foundation and everything, that was Jackson's first belief, if I'm correct in what you told me.
God, I hate conspiracies. You know, there's so many ways they can fall apart. Just takes a couple of people with loose lips and they're destroyed. Well, we'll see. Let's go see Gavigan. Edward Gavigan, the guy who you get his secretary and he's rude to you.
Do you think it would be wise for all of us to go in, or should a couple of us remain anonymous to the foundation?
Quite frankly, I got very little sleep last night, I recall.
Yes, not surprising.
I suppose I did too.
Why don't you go with Grunwald and Morris, and I want to go back and take a nap or something.
Are you and Chapman okay to be left alone?
We're not going to go drinking.
We're not going to make out or anything.
I'm just saying the stars might be out later, and Chapman might.
Well, I don't think you're gonna. It's 1 o'clock. You're not gonna be there for 4 hours.
I'll be fine.
I caught Chapman putting his gloves on his feet this morning.
Well, my toes were cold.
Surely you've recovered by now, Frederick.
Oh, certainly.
I'm just exhausted. Don't
fit as a whistle.
Do you want to go with them, or do you want to come back with me? We can drink.
I'm fair to do either.
I feel like drinking.
Morris, Hauser, how do you feel about going to the foundation with me?
Good idea.
Righty-ho.
All right. Well, we will contact you. We'll contact you at the hotel if anything comes up.
Certainly.
And if you don't contact us at the hotel, then we'll find replacements for you all.
Charming.
Well, just remember to burn down the building if anything untoward happens.
Don't go in there and say that you're best friends, and they just don't remember you.
I give Hauser a look like,
what a silly notion.
Talking about?
Who would do that?
All
right. Goodbye, gentlemen. Frederick, you think they got strip bars here?
Strip bar?
Yeah, you know,
club.
with
like
of course, they're British, so they're in tweed.
What? That sounds horribly uncomfortable. I imagine it would chafe.
That's why they're trying to take it all.
Tweed in town.
Functional, I suppose. Could be entertaining.
It's themed stripping. All right, let's go back to the hotel.
They probably have a gentleman's club.
Yes, I think at the gentlemen's clubs in England, they don't let women into them.
You know, yes, they're not gentlemen's clubs. They're gentlemen's clubs. They're not gentlemen's clubs.
Like boodles. All right.
It's all very.
Or the Wentworth Club. We could go to the Wentworth Club.
Okay, so I guess me, Hauser, and Morris will head off to the Penhew Foundation.
All right, so you arrive at the Penhew Foundation. It's a house I kind of looked out of existence there for a second.
Sorry.
So it's in central London.
Good.
It's a high Victorian building.
Nice.
The grounds of it are very well kept. It's surrounded by kind of a medium height iron fence. And you see a sharply dressed man is waiting outside the door. And he welcomes you inside.
Beautiful building.
Welcome to the Penhew Foundation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you enter the main room. You see there are quite several people kind of moving around, carrying books, carrying papers. You see kind of also near the door, you see two rather large men, kind of keeping an eye on everybody.
Interesting.
And you see a secretary kind of on this on a desk towards the center of this room.
Do the large men look armed? Are they like guards?
They're not. They seem. That's what you definitely get the impression that they're guards. They don't appear to be armed.
How odd in a place like this to have guards.
Yeah, it's a place of learning.
That is full of priceless
artifacts.
antiquities.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll go up to the what I assume is the secretary at the desk and say, we have a meeting with Mr. Gavigan.
Oh, yes. Just down the hall, the first door on your right.
Much obliged.
Danke.
So you go. You take the first door on the right down this long, narrow hallway behind the desk, and you let into. There's a small, narrow office with kind of a row of chairs, and you see a man kind of reviewing some papers. And he looks up and he says, you must be Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox's party?
Yes, we are with Mr. Fox. Unfortunately, he had a prior engagement to attend to, so he has sent us in his place. Theodore Gracie, at your service. My associates Hauser Grunwald and Morris Mitchner.
Hello?
How do you do?
Thomas Kinnery.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yes, please take a seat. Mr. Gavigan should be here shortly.
Thank you.
Then he goes back to kind of writing things on papers and
any antiquities or anything in this room that we're sitting in, like anything to kind of look at on the walls or in shelves or at all?
Yes. So looking around, you see some papyrus scrolls. You see little bits of hieroglyphics, just various little things, some Egyptian-themed paintings.
Can I get a quick glimpse at what he was working at on his desk?
So you're how are you going to go about? You're going to like?
I mean, when he steps out. Well, if
Thomas Kinnery he's still sitting there.
He's still. Oh, okay. I thought he went off to get Gavigan. Sorry.
No, he's staying at his desk.
Gavigan. Yeah, got it. Okay, never mind then.
Hang on. Let me. If I'm looking at the stuff on the walls, I'll lean back and sort of say, sorry, Miss Thomas, was it? Mr.
Yes.
Kinnery? Wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about this this scroll here. It looks quite interesting. If you could, I don't know hieroglyphics, but do you know anything about this particular piece?
Yes, that scroll is a reproduction. The real one is currently being cataloged in Cairo. It was retrieved by one of our expeditions.
Fascinating. I understand there is an expedition on currently, actually, in Cairo.
Yes, that there is.
Fascinating.
Yes, we always have expeditions going on, as it is our business.
Yes.
And how so you can make a spot hidden?
Tonka. Yes, 10. That's a critical spot hidden out of a 74. Yeah, so that's an extreme.
All right, you quickly kind of glance at his desk, and you see that he's working on some kind of schedule. A couple of papers, a couple of invoices, some letters. The only thing that would really jump out at you is that you see that there is a meeting that says meeting with Octavius Fox at 1. That is circled. But it seems to be an itinerary of the day for Gavigan.
Okay, and nothing particularly interesting then.
No. That's all you can really glean from just quickly, like, while he's looking over at the scroll, you kind of take a glance at the desk. And yeah, you're waiting there. You're waiting there. And yeah, Thomas is just not even really looking at you at all.
I'm just gonna look around at all the artifacts that are on the wall, you know.
If you're standing up, walking around, after a couple of minutes, you see this man enters the room, and he says, you must be which one of you is Fox?
Fox unfortunately had a prior engagement to attend to.
I'm sorry. Do we need to postpone?
No, it's quite all right. We've already postponed you once. We don't want to waste your time. You must be a busy man. My name is Theodore Gracie.
Theodore Gracie. I'm Edward Gavigan. Pleased to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. These are my associates, Hauser Grunwald and Morris Mitchner.
What do you do?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Very, very well, thank you. Yes.
Have you had a chance to look around the foundation at all, or have you just come to see the old me today?
Oh, if there is an offer to see the rest of the foundation, I'm sure we would be much obliged if that's a possibility.
Of course, I would love to show you around, but if I'm sure you've come here to discuss.
Oh yes,
some things, Thomas. They was saying that Fox wanted to discuss Sir Aubrey Penhew, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Well, that and amongst many, the foundation itself, me and my associates are considering starting our own expedition, funding an expedition to Egypt, and we heard that you were the very best to come to.
Oh, yes, I would. Well, I'm delighted. Please come in.
Ah, yes.
So he unlocks his office. Leads you inside. Same thing. It's nicely furnished. Once again, you see Egyptian bric-a-brac. Kind of a couple of bookshelves. It's just nice. It's a nicely furnished office. Was sitting, and he says, "Thomas, could you fetch us some tea, please?" And Thomas goes. He says, please sit down. Can everyone make a spot hidden for me?
99.
A standard pass.
I found
Okay,
mine.
so
Morris.
Morris, kind of behind his desk and kind of low to the ground, you see there's a little safe. Seems to have quite a stack of things in it, and it's unlocked. It's kind of hanging open.
What's I mean, papers?
Looking, there seems to be some banknotes is what it looks like. Some other documents in there as well. And as he sits down, he kind of glances down and goes, "Oh, good heavens!" And he kind of shuts it and spins it out. Well, one can never be too careful. I should. Oh, things are getting away from me.
I'm gonna harumph in a manner expressing my distaste, because this man has just basically implied that I might be a thief.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant no offense. I apologize.
I'm going to fix him with a bit of a stern stare from this point onwards. And what I believe in colloquial circles is known as bogging him out. So I'm giving him a fixed, angry look.
So you say you are planning an expedition to Egypt?
Well, we're looking into the possibility of it. My associates and I, we've been friends for a few years now, and we've one of our common interests is Egypt, the Valley of the Kings, Giza, the pyramids, all that. And we thought, well, what fun it would be to fund an expedition and possibly able to have our names in the history books like Aubrey Penhew and Howard Carter and of the like.
Oh, yes. Well, what is your the aims? What are you hoping? Egypt is quite a big place. Where are you hoping to go?
Well, we heard through our research that you currently have a dig on at the moment at the Giza Plateau. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. It's going quite well from what I hear.
Oh, well I mean, with the possibility of helping fund that, or if there's anything you might yourself suggest could be worth looking into, we could potentially, as I said, right now we're just looking into the possibility of the expedition. We want to know the more research and find where we think would be the best place to look.
Oh, well, I mean, if you are hoping to help us fund this expedition we have going now, you could make a donation to the foundation.
Oh, we more than happy.
We would greatly appreciate it.
No, yes. Tell me, obviously, in doing our research, we heard the story of Aubrey Penhew himself. Quite a fascinating tale. He went on an expedition to Egypt with what the name? Hauser, what was the name of the expedition that Penhew went on?
Oh, there were several he went on. So obviously, it's the last one. I believe that was a Carlisle, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, the Carlisle. That was the name. Fascinating story.
Yes, well, fascinating and tragic.
Oh, yes, of course.
Aubrey was a close friend and mentor of mine. His loss was quite distressing to hear.
What exactly? Whereabouts was their dig? Where was their that expedition?
Oh well. Well, they were in the Nile Valley. You see, Carlisle. I'm sure this is well, I'm sure the story is more fascinating than you know. Not everything gets out in the papers.
Oh, I see.
you see, as it turns out, Carlyle had heard from this African woman about this shadowy time in Egypt's past, one that Sir Aubrey loved to study, wanted to find more evidence about, and the notion of the potential for materials to be recovered was too great of an opportunity to pass up.
It sounds fascinating.
Yes, but unfortunately, it all proved to be a hoax. You see, when they got there, this woman left them, taking as much as the funds as she could.
And is that why they continued on to where did
Yes,
they go?
yes, they to Kenya. They tried to poke around on themselves, but eventually getting into it with a hoax, they decided to take a short rest in Kenya, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I see.
Yes.
So there's no the Nile Valley, that there was no, they didn't turn up anything from that expedition at all?
Well, whatever was recovered, was lost with them.
Oh, so they didn't send any back here. It was they took it with them to Kenya then.
Well, either that or nothing of note was found.
Yeah.
What about this most current expedition? Is there anything that has there been any fruitful discoveries from the current expedition?
Well, they've been slowly recovering things, several of which we have some of the lesser miracles that they found here. We're very grateful of that. Others are being cataloged in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. But they are still working.
All in the pursuit of knowledge.
Oh, yes.
What can you tell me about Penhew himself? You said he was your mentor. What sort of man was he?
Oh, he was a great man. Oh, what a great man. So knowledgeable, so wise. Loved his studies. You could never meet a more passionate person than Sir Aubrey Penhew. Such a taste for life, such a exuberance of everything that he did.
Yeah, such a shame that he got duped by this woman.
Yes, and then such a waste. Such a waste.
Are you certain? Are you certain it was a complete hoax? There's nothing of value in that pursuit at all, or?
No. There nothing was. As I said, nothing was recovered. Nothing that we have, anyway.
Okay.
I remember when I was reading the papers at the time that the members of the Carlisle party, it was quite a strange group of individuals.
Yes, they were. Yes, quite
eccentric.
Well, I
eclectic.
don't like to speak ill of the dead, but well, Hypatia, the photographer woman, from what I understand, it was her idea to travel down to Kenya. She wanted to try out some of her new cameras, and that's where that idea came from. She didn't really seem to be an expertise in her field, and if she had perhaps not gone, well,
Yes. Well, there's no point in dwelling in the past, though that is what obviously...
There is a point to study it, though, yes.
Yes, of course. You don't, by any chance, remember the name of the African woman that duped the expedition, by any chance?
I do not. I never met her.
Yes.
But Carlyle was infatuated with her. He seemed to be, and from what I understand, when she stole everything from them and left them, he was more upset about losing her than he was about losing all the expedition's funds. Or a portion of them, anyway.
Well, Morris, how's that? Any more questions, or should we go and inspect, have a look at the rest of the foundation, the rest of the artifacts?
It would be lovely to have a view of this place and just get a good sense of what you have here.
Yes.
Oh yes, I will happily show you upstairs. Give you a personal tour. It would be my pleasure. Okay. Now say, what organization are you with?
The organization.
Yes, the research that you were.
Oh, me and Fox, which, as I said, we're as a group, we're a bit of a club ourselves.
Private finance.
Yes, and me and Fox would be funding the expedition if we decide to move ahead.
Oh, well, I certainly hope as you do. We'll be happy to help you with that.
Oh, much obliged.
Thank you.
So please, follow me. Yeah, so he will lead you upstairs. Mm-hmm. Morris, are you following and continually giving him your disapproval?
Yes.
All right, and so he takes you upstairs, and there's this large room that is packed with Egyptian artifacts.
I say.
And he says, well, let's start right here. And he starts talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. Very extremely knowledgeable. The passion of this is very evident. And he has a lot to say about every little thing in this room. So,
do we get any sort of sense that he's at all off or on edge or hiding something?
You can make a psychology.
Don't know.
Oh, that should be good. Give me one sec. Yes, that is a hard pass.
Yeah, he seems fine.
Copacetic. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the displays or anything like that maybe like a black pharaoh or the symbol that was carved into the head of the bloody tongue, or just anything that might tip me off to kind of the research we've already done? Maybe a deformed pyramid of some kind?
No, you don't see anything like that.
Okay. Stars falling from the sky?
No stars falling from the sky.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna.
Well, I'll once we've done that, he's given us the tour. I'll shake his hand, and I'll say, well, thank you. We will go back and discuss with the rest of our party, and hopefully be in contact as to our decision to move forward or not.
Oh, that would be great. I'm hoping to hear from you soon.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
And so I might, and hopefully, if Fox is feeling better, I would happily have another discussion with him, or both of you, and he's more available.
Yes, well, he's a very busy man, but yes, we'll make sure that at some point Fox will be able to come down and meet with you, and our other associate, Mr. Chapman.
Yes, well. Oh, it was a pleasure meeting all of you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Come back anytime you wish.
Out of interest, the windows when we were coming through on the ground floor and on that upper floor, were they barred or anything like that?
No.
No, okay, so just standard windows. That'll be something I'll take note of.
So yeah, this place seems pretty much on the up and up, but
Looks can be deceiving, Grunwald.
yeah.
But as it said, very knowledgeable man. So it seems to me strange that they would tell the police that something didn't exist unless they were trying to cover it up. Which is why I didn't mention the Black Pharaoh or anything along those lines. I didn't want to show our hand.
I wonder if it's in the context of it doesn't exist any longer. Like it doesn't exist today or never existed at all. Two different.
And also, it worries me that Bernard was saying that there's quite a few deaths that are connected specifically with Penhue's expeditions.
Yeah.
And it just seems strange. He said that they went to Kenya because Hypatia Martha's wanted to go try out her new cameras. That's a long way to go to try out some bloody cameras.
Yeah.
Why not just come home after all the funds and everything was stolen? Why not just return back to Blighty? Morris, what do you think, my friend?
I think it's rather strange that he wasn't delivering constant updates and that they don't know precisely what went on, or he claims not to know precisely what went on during the expedition, because he seems very well informed about the current expedition.
Yes. Well, I don't know if you noticed, gentlemen, but those windows weren't barred, upstairs nor downstairs. And we did see a safe. Did you catch anything behind the desk, Hauser?
9. I think we should go back and with Octavius and Frederick to discuss such things.
Yes. Well, let us. We've also got. Don't forget, we've also got. We know that the murders, the Egyptian murders, are based out in Soho, so we could potentially go and look around Soho, and you and I, we could also look into see if we can find the names of the victims, and we also have that other article that Jackson was looking into about the
beast.
The beast that Chapman was quite interested in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's check in at the hotel first with Frederick and Octavius.
Yes, make sure they haven't caused a ruckus.
Make no more drops of that funny liquid.
Don't want to go in there and find Frederick in his underwear hiding under the bed because the sky is falling.
All right.
So, return back to the hotel.
Oh, you guys back?
Hey, Fox. Chapman.
How's the foundation?
Yeah, what can you tell us?
Well, we went in, we met his secretary, Thomas Kinnery. Obviously, you booked the meeting under your name, Fox.
Yeah, I
so
forgot all about that. Should have probably shown up.
But it's all right. They said that you'd specifically asked to learn about Audrey Penhu, so we had to. I went under the pretense that you and myself, well, that the group of us have been friends for a few years and have an interest in Egypt and so on and so forth, and that you and I were looking at potentially funding an expedition, which he was very delighted to hear.
You know, we are eventually going to go there to Egypt. Maybe that's just as well. Did you get any? Did you see anything that made you suspicious?
Well, nothing on the surface, but Gavigan himself didn't seem to be very well informed. He is incredibly well informed with Egypt, and so I find it hard to believe that he would tell the police that the Black Pharaoh cult didn't exist at all.
Well, like I said, we're getting all of that second hand, though.
It
But
might have
also-
just been a miscommunication
The
somewhere
cop
in
might
the
have
line.
said, the cop might have said, "Does a cult exist right now?" And they
Morris
said, "No."
also pointed out, though, that he didn't have a lot of information at all about the Carlisle expedition. Seemed very ill-informed, or not necessarily willing to forgive us. Supposedly, they were all duped by this African-American woman. And once they got to Egypt, they found out the entire thing was a hoax. And she stole everything and all the funding.
That was that Bonet woman.
And then disappeared. But then this is the bit that I don't believe, is that supposedly the reason they went to Kenya was because Hypatia Masters wanted to test out her new cameras. So they traveled, after losing everything from their expedition in Egypt and finding out it was a hoax, they picked everything up, and instead of returning home, they traveled all the way to Egypt for a holiday.
If I recall from the newspapers, there was something in there about while they were in Egypt. Now you're saying they'd be upset if all of their funding was stolen by this woman that they trusted. There was something in the newspapers about Carlisle having sunstroke, and that they were going to Kenya on a holiday of shooting animals. You know, because they just
forgive me if I'm this is not correct, but Kenya seems a strange place to go on a holiday, especially if you're suffering from sunstroke.
Yeah, that's a good point. Of course, there's some very nice places to stay in Kenya. Then if you're just going to lounge around while people shoot animals, I suppose it's better than the Congo.
Yes, but if you lost all your funding.
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean it. That means they're funding for whatever. Carlisle had so much money, he could throw $1 million out the window and still have $1 million.
It seemed strange.
And it's also a lot shorter than going home. You know, Egypt. I'm not sure Egypt to Kenya. You're just going up the Nile, right? I'm not exactly sure.
Would we be able to get access to a map of Cairo by any chance?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if we can mark out where the Giza Plateau is and where the Valley of the Nile, where the Carlisle expedition was, if we can mark out where all of the Penhu expeditions have been, we might know what vicinity they're looking in specifically.
Well, from what I understand, if you go to Egypt, the entire civilization, the entire Egyptian civilization exists for about 1 mile on either side of the Nile, all the way up and down, but nothing outside of that because it's all just desert. And so you're talking about a narrow little strip of land that I think that, you know, Cairo is here and Luxor is here and the Valley of the Kings. I believe the Valley of the Kings is quite near Luxor. So the only way they're going to go is up and down. If they go this way, they're going to end up in
but what I mean
Ethiopia
is
and Kenya.
If they're focusing their expeditions on one locale of that line,
Well,
we know
you said
what-
the Valley of the Kings. That's where Carter found the
Well, no,
King
they're not
Tut's
looking.
tomb.
They weren't in the Valley of the Kings. They were in he said the Nile Valley.
I think the whole thing is the Nile Valley. The
Well, then we
river
have
is in the middle of the valley.
Well, then we have
I
a
don't know.
serial-
I don't know. I don't know. We can. I'm sure we can find out. I'm not sure. It sounds like the Penhew Foundation actually is that involved in anything other than now. You know, you mentioned like the not getting messages back from Aubrey Penhew about
Yes.
what they were doing. Wasn't Aubrey Penhew the guy in charge? Boss doesn't always tell the workers what the hell he's doing. Just because sometimes they're dicks. We don't know if Aubrey was a dick or not.
I would advise against believing that the Penhew Foundation are not involved.
Well, we're not ready to make that judgment yet, but we don't have enough to go on yet.
Yeah, Aubrey Penhew might have been involved in a maybe nefarious way, but I don't think the Foundation is.
You know what? Here, to go along your lines, if I'm involved in something sinister, I know that I'm involved in something sinister, and I've got nefarious plans, and I know people are going to start asking questions, so I have a whole script in my head for what I'm going to answer if somebody asks me a question, in which case you might not have ever gotten any straight information out of them that wasn't rehearsed. But what if we, I don't know, keep an eye on them? Where does this Gavigan go when he leaves work? It's kind of silly, you know. This is,
Yeah,
I
this
mean, what
could
are
take
we?
a long time staking.
What are we? You know, detectives? But
Well,
you know what?
as far
Let's
as
look
the
into some of.
Inspector Barrington knows, yes.
Let's look into some of these other things, and then.
What about this this beast that Chapman is chomping at the bit to go and look into?
I mean, if you want to take the time to do that, I mean, otherwise we could just. What do you want to do? Move on to or we could use the Penhew Foundation for fixing it up. I mean,
So
they know what they're
you
doing.
You want to go directly to Egypt?
Well, I was just going to say that the Penhew Foundation. We don't know anything about them. How are we going to figure it out?
Well, we can look into it. We can go to Soho. We can try and find the names of the victims, the two people that weren't Egyptian nationals. This is very clearly connected to the killings of what happened with Jackson.
Is it?
Yes.
You say very clearly. It seems
seems
that way.
Yeah, it seems that way. I don't know if it's clearly connected. I do see similarities, but
I think it would be unwise to just jump ship, as it were, to go directly to Egypt, leaving so many stones unturned.
Well, I mean, our original thing is to figure out where this. We know that the cult comes from somewhere in Kenya. That's where we're heading anyway. I'm not against it. I mean, we got all the time in the world. There's no timetable.
So, just to clarify, you want to leave England.
I don't
and
want
travel
anything
directly to Kenya.
I'm you know, this whole thing is rather tenuous that we're following up on this. We could spend years doing this and never get anywhere. We could spend weeks doing it and get killed.
Humor me. Let me and Hauser and Morris go to the library, see if we can find out any information about the names of the victims of the murders, and we look into what might be going on in Soho.
All right.
If we find anything of interest, we can look into it. If we turn up blank, we'll do it your way. We'll completely jump ship and head off to Kenya.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you guys, we're on. In a way, this is kind of our vacation. I mean, what else are we doing? We're not doing anything else. If you guys want to look into the Werewolf of London or whatever, I don't care.
I think that would be good because it was important to Jackson Elias.
True.
And again, he seems to be coming up with good leads. So
Why don't we just do this all in honor of our friend Jackson Elias to follow up the things that he was following up?
yeah, I like that. We are his good friends.
And if it's a real werewolf, we'll take care of it, maybe, or die trying.
We will run like hell.
But I don't know. Unless we run across more information that really ties the Penhew into some sort of dark and mysterious evil thing.
The saying is, if they are connected to some dark and mysterious evil thing, they're not going to advertise it.
No.
Yes.
It's going to be very difficult to dig up something.
And as you said, if you're involved in something nefarious, and you've got a script that you've planned, that script is designed especially to put people off.
Yeah, mislead them.
Thinking you're involved with anything. So to go, oh, I don't think the Penhew found, they don't sound like they're involved in anything. That's what they want you to think. If
Right,
they
but
are
the
involved in nefarious.
The only thing is if you walk into the restaurant across the street and you ask the same kind of questions, you're going to get the same kind of answers. That's why they're really good answers. It doesn't mean they're involved because they sound like they're not involved. But the way you find out is you follow these people around and see what the fuck they're really doing. Where does Gavigan go? And if he just goes home and then gets up in the morning and goes to work, nothing's going on. You follow him around on the full moon, see if he's dancing naked in the woods and doing something, then we got something. Otherwise, he's just a guy.
It would be interesting to see what he has in the safe.
What time is it now?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Well, you keep implying about breaking in. Don't break into the Penhew Foundation just yet.
Why don't me and Hauser head off to and Morris head off to the library, and we'll start looking into the Egyptian murders. Or I mean, we can all go if you and Chapman are feeling up to it. And
it's like the last thing I want to do is sit in front of a bunch of paperwork and look through it and see what I can find.
I actually would love to do so.
Okay.
Well, it's getting pretty late, Frederick, so the stars
It's
will be
only
out soon.
4. Oh.
The stars.
I'm not sure why you're so enamored with stars.
Me? You were bleating on about them last night, Frederick.
Oh, was I?
I lean over to Hauser and be like, we're going to have to put him in a sanitary. He's been reading those bloody books.
They're very interesting, though.
Oh, yes, they're quite.
Okay, so we do a quick check in the libraries for some initial.
I don't think it'll be quick, but we'll go to the
Yeah.
Okay, so as you open up your door to leave, you see there's a paper tacked to your door.
Interesting.
Oh, crap.
Bossy stars.
That's never a good thing.
And you see that it's a newspaper clipping. American author murdered in Harlem. And it's a detail of Jackson Elias, and on it, you see, "You're next."
Shyster.
I'm going to take it off the door.
Have they spelt your correctly?
Yes.
I'm going to pull the piece of paper
You
off the door
are.
and hold it to Fox and go, yes, you're probably right. Not connected in any way.
You're suggesting that they're connected and they decided that they would let you know they're connected by coming here and sticking this on the door? It's probably from the maid. It's probably from the maid. What did you do last night? I'm joking.
You
And
ran
the
through the
Savoy.
hotel.
Somebody- Who would threaten us? Somebody has. Could it have been
Well,
that
we've
fellow
just
from
gone
the library?
It could be him. It could be Lieutenant Brannigan. It could be Gavigan or Thomas, his secretary at the Penny Foundation.
We just established that if Gavigan's evil, then he would have gone to a great deal to cover up that fact. Then why would he put this on the door?
To scare us off the trace, to scare us away.
That's crazy.
Well, because they may be
Or they've
willing
been
to
followed.
kill. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, they've been following us since we got here.
Yes.
Before,
That's
probably.
true.
And the scaring us off makes sense because they may be willing to kill, but that's still something that needs to be covered up and dealt with the authorities.
Gentlemen, we should check in with the Frost brothers because what was his name? He got away. The detective in Harlem.
What are you talking about?
That we've got the bounty hunters looking for the detective in Harlem that killed Christopher.
They haven't taken care of him yet?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. What if he followed us? What if he's here?
Oh, I don't think he could have afforded the ship that we took.
Well, if he was working for a cult, and they've got enough reach to get from here to all, if they are involved with the Penny Foundation,
Okay,
have enough money
well,
to,
there's probably more of a chance of that than anything else. So why would he bother to warn us
as I said, scare
and not just kill us?
fear. Well, yeah, but fear, it will be looking, but yes, we already were watching our backs and everything, but now he puts us on edge.
We're already on edge. That's a weird move to put that on our door. It's a very sloppy move. It would be much easier to cut our throats when we're least expecting it.
Killing, again, it could be an option they don't mind taking, but it would probably be a last resort because once you kill, then you bring in the police, then you bring in the possibility of getting caught. If you scare someone, you leave the authorities out, and we could just go away. That might actually be the smartest.
This could also be the situation of what happened to these two non-Egyptian victims of the Egyptian murders, that they were getting too close. They were sent a message like this to back off, and they didn't. And that could possibly be why the inspector was so unwilling to talk about what went down, because someone was sent a message to back off.
Yes, yeah, the fear. They were willing to feed Christopher to that monster. What would they be using fear for? They just would kill us. And they'd kill us 1,000 miles from New York.
So what I'm saying is they knew you in Egypt. They knew who you were. Yes, they got Christopher, but they didn't then come straight out and kill the rest of you.
What I don't understand is why they've got to make such a big song and dance of it. I mean, if they want us dead, they could just pop us off from a car driving past us.
Yeah, I think that this person wants to scare us, but not because they're a member of the cult, but because maybe they're trying to get us from discovering what they've discovered, or to get in their way. Could that be the policeman who just doesn't want us to get involved? Maybe he's more involved than what.
Well, then my question for you is, now that if that is the case, if that is what it is, do we back off and just not look into it, or do we do the opposite? Do we
I think backing off.
I
don't think we can back off. It's silly.
That's exactly, that's what I'm saying. We need.
That could also be a test, though. It could be a test to see if we back off because they have something to tell us.
Why don't we show Barrington? Why don't we show Barrington what was stuck on our door?
don't think he'd care.
if you want.
He'd just tell us to back
He'd
off.
probably think that we did it.
Let's go to the library and see if we can find out more about these murders.
Okay.
I think I'll go with you.
Yeah, stay together.
Suddenly, I don't want to be all alone here.
Yeah. In fact, with that note, I think I will grab my little piece of hardware for my coat.
Yeah, making sure we're all armed.
Keep the note and keep an eye on the calligraphy.
Actually, if we on our way down, might be worth asking the front door, like the front desk, if anyone came in inquiring where we were staying, or because don't we have a private elevator to our floor?
I don't think so.
There's always stairs.
Right.
We can.
So if you ask the front desk, no, nobody asked where you were staying.
Has anyone odd or out of place looking potentially entered in the last hour or so?
Well, there was a lady who had come in. Didn't stay
yes?
for too long.
What was and what did the lady look like?
She had this long black hair, a bit of a dark complexion. I didn't get a good look at her.
How was she dressed?
Was she African American? I mean, was she an African female?
Or
Or did she have a more Middle Eastern look?
Middle Eastern,
Egyptian.
possibly. Sorry, do you know her?
Oh, no, we just received an invite to a party. We were wondering who it had.
She didn't
Might
sign
be
her
the-
name.
Yes,
How strange.
yes. Oh, thank you for your help.
Thank you.
And with
Another
that,
mystery.
we will leave it there for tonight.
That is a good spot. Our players included Zane Fleming, Brian Daly, Mick Swan, Stuart Lively, and myself with Morgan Llewellyn as the Keeper of the Secrets. We're currently producing up to 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production. In order to create a richer listener experience, we provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. The costs involved with the show are provided almost entirely by our patrons. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. If you'd like to support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 to a month helps us a lot. You can find a link in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answer any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure in the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu RPG. Until next time, good luck and gaming.